Hey, Sophia. How are you? I was just thinking, I had a client recently, and she was talking about feeling really left out, like in her community. And it got me thinking about social exclusion, and it feels like it's a topic we really need to, touch on.
Oh, Isabella, that's such an important point. It's not just about, being alone, is it? Social exclusion is so much more profound than just preferring solitude or like having a quiet moment. It's truly when individuals or even entire groups are just like prevented from fully participating in society. They can't access the rights, the opportunities, the resources that, others might take for granted. It's really detaching people from social relations, from institutions, and it hinders their full involvement, in what we call normative societal activities. It's not just about poverty, though that's a huge part, but also a lack of agency, a lack of control, and this really deep feeling of alienation, of inferiority. Wow. Okay, so it's not just like, oh, I wasn't invited to that one party. It's much bigger, systemic almost. And you mentioned it's not just about poverty. Can you expand on what it isn't then? Because I think sometimes people get that mixed up. Exactly. That's key. It's not just a one-time oversight. Like if you're forgotten for one invitation, that can be hurtful, right? But it's usually not like chronic social exclusion if it's not part of a bigger pattern. What it isn't is simply being alone or choosing solitude. It's characterized by an involuntary lack of participation and access. It often stems from power imbalances or sadly from discriminatory practices. So it's often intentional barriers or systemic ones, not just, an accident.
That distinction is so important. And I think for many people, when they think of exclusion, they probably think about like big societal issues. But it can happen in our closest circles too, right? Like with family or friends. How does that look?
Oh, absolutely, Isabella. And it's particularly painful there because, these are the people you expect to feel safe and loved with. In a family, it can be really devastating for your mental health and self-worth. It might manifest as being actively excluded from family activities or like inside jokes or stories that everyone else seems to share. Or, plans are made around certain members' needs and desires while ignoring yours. It could even be a lack of acknowledgement or response, like your input is just brushed aside. Or even worse, discussing you negatively without your knowledge. Sometimes, it's a symptom of childhood emotional neglect, where one child is just consistently ignored or like treated as less important.
Gosh, that's really heartbreaking to think about. I mean, family is supposed to be your foundation. And then with friends, I imagine it's similar, but maybe slightly different dynamics, right?
Yes, it is. With friends, you might see it as being regularly left out of events, parties, or, those group outings, or being ignored in conversations when everyone else is like bantering back and forth. It could involve the overuse of in-jokes that are clearly meant to exclude you, or like explicitly being told to go away or that you're unwelcome. Intentional and repeated exclusion by friends, Isabella, that's actually considered a form of bullying. People might do it to protect their own social standing, or sometimes it's simply due to a lack of connection or like dislike. But the impact is still so significant.
That's such a tough reality. I mean, the bullying aspect especially. So beyond family and friends, what about like broader group settings? And I'm also really curious about how all this plays out online, because that's such a big part of our lives now, right?
Right, absolutely. In broader group settings, Isabella, exclusion can be based on so many factors: social class, race, religious affiliation, ethnic origin, disability, sexual orientation. It can be super subtle, like a psychological exclusion, where someone's sense of belonging is subtly affected. Or it can be really overt, like being denied access to services or opportunities because of discrimination. Think about a student left out when classmates spontaneously self-organize into project groups, or an employee being the only one not invited to a team outing. It's those subtle cues that really erode your sense of worth.
Oh, that's so true. It's those microaggressions sometimes, or those little slights that accumulate. And online, does it feel the same, or are there different ways it manifests?
It's fascinating because both online and in-person social exclusion, they actually elicit really similar psychological reactions. That distress, that drop in self-esteem, it's just as impactful online. What it looks like, well, there's cyber ostracism, which is basically being ignored or excluded over the internet. You might see a lack of feedback, like not getting likes or comments on your posts, being untagged in photos or posts where you're clearly present. Or the classic, discovering your friends have a group chat that you weren't invited to. And we can't forget the digital divide, where a lack of access to technology and the internet can exclude people from online opportunities, especially relevant for older adults now, you know?
Oh, the group chat one is so real. I mean, it's almost like a modern-day playground exclusion. So we've talked about all these difficult scenarios. What about coping? Like, what are some of the effective ways someone can navigate these feelings of being left out? Because it can really, really hurt.
It absolutely can, Isabella. And the good news is there are really effective tools. First, and this is so important, acknowledge your emotions. It's okay to feel sad, angry, confused. That's the first step towards healing. Then, self-reflection. Try to understand why this is bothering you. Is it tapping into past experiences, insecurities? Next, positive self-talk. Use affirmations to combat those negative feelings and remind yourself of your worth. And then, so crucial, self-care. Do things that bring you joy, like watching a movie, listening to music, or taking a walk. Anything to improve your mood and shift your focus, you know? And then, if it's possible, communicate your feelings. Use I statements to the people involved. It allows them to understand your perspective, and maybe, just maybe, they can rectify the situation, right?
That makes so much sense. Using I statements, that's really key. It's about expressing your feelings, not placing blame, right? Are there other things we can do beyond that direct communication?
Absolutely, Isabella. If direct communication isn't right, or even alongside it, seek support. Talk to trusted friends, family, or even a therapist. They can provide an outlet and different perspectives. Also, build new connections. Making new friends, joining clubs, trying new interests, that can really expand your social circle and lessen those feelings of exclusion. And I always say, take initiative. Plan social outings yourself instead of always waiting to be invited. Reappraisal is another powerful one. Reframe the negative situation as an opportunity for learning, for personal growth. And don't forget physical activity. You know, exercise releases endorphins, which just naturally elevate your mood. And practices like mindfulness or journaling, those really help you process emotions.
That's a really comprehensive list, Sophia. I love the idea of taking initiative. That's so empowering. But on the flip side, what are some things we might think are helping, but actually make things worse when we're dealing with social exclusion?
That's a super important question, Isabella, because sometimes our natural reactions can actually hurt us more. First off, isolation or withdrawal. While it might be tempting to just pull away, withdrawing from social interaction can actually be really harmful for your mental and physical health. It just, exacerbates feelings of loneliness and makes it harder to break that negative cycle. Also, jumping to conclusions or making negative assumptions without seeking clarity, that just ramps up anxiety and worsens emotional distress. And dwelling on the situation, constantly replaying what happened without taking action, that just intensifies those negative emotions.
Yeah, I can definitely see how, getting stuck in that negative thought loop can be so detrimental. What else should people really try to avoid?
Right. Also, responding with aggression or antisocial behavior. That's almost always maladaptive, and it can just further damage any relationships. Excessive reliance on others. While seeking support is healthy, over-relying on others for all your emotional needs can become detrimental. Avoidance behaviors like procrastination, oversleeping, over or under-eating, or overworking just to ignore the problem, those just lead to emotions building up and prolonging your stress. And this is a big one, ignoring the feelings. Denying or suppressing emotions related to being left out can actually intensify them later. And finally, self-blame. While self-reflection is helpful, blaming yourself excessively for others' exclusionary behavior just worsens your insecurities, It's about recognizing these patterns so we can choose healthier responses.
Oh, Sophia, this has been so incredibly insightful, really.
We've explored social exclusion, from its definition to how it shows up in our families, friendships, and even the digital world. It's truly a pervasive issue.
Indeed, Isabella. We covered powerful coping mechanisms like acknowledging emotions and seeking support, while also highlighting pitfalls such as withdrawal. Our goal is to empower individuals effectively.
Absolutely. And if this conversation resonated with you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast for more valuable insights,
You can find The Good Life Guide on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. Watch us on YouTube and join our social media community for daily inspiration.
And for additional tools and resources like journals, habit trackers, and affirmation audios to help you achieve your goals, you can visit our website at www.goodlifeguide.org.